amazing new study on terrorism in America was just released, and it finally shed some light on something I've been screaming about for years. Quote, according to National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Response to Terrorism, sovereign citizens were the top concern of law enforcement. So they questioned over 350 law enforcement operatives, and researchers say, quote, in the 2006 and 2007 survey, the law enforcement's top concern was Islamic extremists. The change is interesting as there was significant concern about the resurgence of the radical far right. Now, other groups that were mentioned as posing a threat were the KKK, Christian identity groups, and neo-Nazis. And as we've gone over time and time again, if you actually look at the data, if you look at the numbers, it tells you the truth. It tells you the reality of the state of terrorism in the United States of America. The Department of Homeland Security looked into it, and from the early 1990s until the year the report was released, which I believe was 2009, they found that 56% of terrorist attacks in the United States were done by right-wing terrorists. Right-wing terrorists. Now, here's the problem. The Republicans shrieked and moaned and bitched and cried when that report was released, and they say, oh my God, it's politicized. It wasn't politicized. It was the person who did the report was appointed by George W. Bush. So a conservative who's anti-conservative in their message and in their report. Nonsense. It was objective. It was a data-based study. It was actually scientific. So, the problem was that we had this information, but nothing was being done about the information. People still had this perception that, no, only Muslims do terrorism. That's a fact. And that was pervasive in the law enforcement community, as I just laid out for you right here. Again, in 2006 and 2007, according to this same survey, law enforcement said, yeah, Islamic extremists are our main worry. Well, now they've learned from firsthand experience from those years in between that, whoa, man, we've had to deal with a combined total of maybe one instance where it was Muslim terrorism and extremism. But how many have we dealt with that are anti-government, that are Christian, that are right-wing extremist and terrorist? Virtually all of them. Every scenario. So finally, the perception of law enforcement is starting to catch up with what the reality is according to the data. And here's another fact I want to bring up, which is totally overlooked, and very few people even know this. In 2008, okay, there were 149 radical militia groups that were understood to exist and were known by the U.S. government, okay? As of 2012, that number shot up from 149 to 1,360. 1,360 radical militia groups. Now, those include all the different things we went through, whether they're neo-Nazis or sovereign citizens or Christian fundamentalists. I mean, we've spoken about a whole bunch of abortion clinic bombings that have happened in the United States of America. That's terrorism, right? Violence, anti-Semitism, and violence against Jews, that's terrorism, right? So what we're learning is it's an absolute stone-cold fact that these radical militia groups are the problem, the right-wing terrorists are the problem, the white supremacists and the KKK people are the problem, the neo-Nazis are the problem. And look, you could say whatever you want about international terrorism, and it's certainly true that internationally, Muslim terrorism is the number one threat. But domestically, here in the United States of America, the problem is definitely not Muslim fundamentalism and extremism and terrorism. It's more so right-wing terrorism, and a new study is shedding light on this, and even law enforcement is starting to understand it now.